Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from deltacx.com. We're a full service CX and UX consultancy. We do projects, training, and consulting. And welcome to our usually every Tuesday show, Office Hours Ask Me Anything. I'm here for an hour, and I'm actually today a little bit less than an hour since I have another call right at the end of the show, so I can't stay the whole hour or late. But normally I take your questions for an hour. If you'd like to send in questions ahead of time so that you are the first for the day, you can always send them to deltacx.com/links. We'll have a place where you can go to send in your questions early. I checked, and I don't seem to have any questions from ahead of time. So I think this is a first in a very long time. I've got no questions waiting for me. If you sent in a question, I can't find it. So if you sent in a question and are expecting me to answer it, please let me know. Also, please note we're going to be taking next week off. I'm going to be mostly off the grid trying to finish my new book. So there will not be an office hours next week. We'll move it to the week after, which I think will be the 16th. So if anybody has any questions, please ask them. Otherwise, it's just the awkward silence of me looking out at all of you, knowing that there's no questions to answer. Hello. Strange world here. Normally I am overwhelmed with questions and we can barely get anything started over here, but yeah, we're not getting anything started today. So if there are no questions today, or everybody is just really enjoying the above the equator summer weather, we can always just end the stream. I don't want to make anybody stay here and watch me not answering questions for an hour, but I'll stick around a few more minutes just in case anybody does have a question. While we wait for that, of course, let's thank the people who are giving to the YouTube channel through clicking the join button. This is, of course, completely optional, but always appreciated. You're helping to keep me in streaming software and chocolate chips. I don't think I ate the chocolate chips today, but they are delicious. Strange. No questions today. Really weird. Hi from Nigeria, just joining. Hello from Nigeria. If you have any questions, please ask. This is Office Hours Ask Me Anything, and normally people are asking me anything. I should also mention, if you are new to the channel, that we also have a completely free Slack community and Discord community. You're welcome to join one or both. You will also find the links in the same place, deltacx.com/links. All right, I think we've got a question from Megan. Thanks, Megan. I'm in UXR and I want to move into team leadership. Feedback I've received after my applications was that I need to brush up my strategy. Do you have any tips? I think another good question would have been, what do they mean by strategy? It can sometimes mean a couple of different things. So another thing I would recommend is, even though I know it's a little bit far in the future, in about 2 months, we're doing our Concentric conference, and we have a whole day of speakers. It's our Friday leadership day, and they're going to be talking about transitioning into UX leadership. Just in case you're still looking by then, it might be a good event to attend. Everybody, please check out deltacx.com/concentric. It's our conference, and we would love to see people signing up for that. So how do you brush up on strategy? That's hard because usually you're proving that you know strategy or can be strategic with the strategic work that you've done. So that might be growing a team, training a team, planning a team's growth. So it might be at the team level. It might have been at the project level, a strategic approach to a project. How is the project planned? How is the time estimated? How did you assign different people to that project or to work with you? So there are many different ways to be strategic. It's hard to know exactly what they were looking for without more information or looking at some of these job descriptions. But I feel like you can't really just brush up on strategy, because even if you came in and you said, well, I know what to do strategically, but I haven't done it yet, the question is, would they still let you do it? Or are they looking for, do they really mean brush up on strategy, or do they really mean we're looking for you to have more experience executing, planning and executing on strategy before we consider you? I have found in general that most UX jobs, not all, but most UX jobs very often do not just take you in as a first-time manager or leader in that sense. Sometimes you have to get promoted at your job into that, and then everyone goes, oh, yeah, oh, you're a leader, you're a manager, or whatever. Oh, yeah, we want you. But I find that it's really hard to just kind of show up and say, hey, I know I don't have a team leadership role on my resume or CV, but hey, give me a chance. That's hard. And so I wonder if there's any room in your current job, if you have one. And again, I recognize a lot of people right now do not have jobs, but is there any opportunity in the current job to see if you can get some of that leadership experience, even if they're not changing your title? Megan, give me more information if I've missed something, but I hope this is an okay start. And let's see, let's take our next questions. Let me copy and paste them so that I can get them later in the YouTube description. And let's see what Shri is asking. Let's see, copy, paste. And here we go. And we'll get to Amir's question after that. Hello, Manuel, and hello, Amir. Hello, Debbie. Can you talk to us about your experiences when freelancing? What's your style of onboarding? How do you deal with conflicts with stakeholders in short-term freelancing projects? Okay, there's a lot of questions in there. Let's talk about this a little while, and then we'll go to the next question. But keep asking your questions. I'll get them on the list. And someone has sent an anonymous question. Let me go copy-paste that onto the list so that I don't miss it. I know I do miss these things sometimes. So thank you to the person who sent in the anonymous question. We will get to yours after Amir. But right now we're on Shree's question. Juggling. Alrighty. So, oh, there's another question. Brown habit. Okay. We'll add brown habits question to the end. Thank you. All right. We finally got some questions. We're cooking now. Okay, so freelance experiences when freelancing, style of onboarding. Very often I don't have a lot of choice in onboarding. It's usually however the company has set up the onboarding, and it's usually almost nothing. As a freelancer or a contractor, I'm usually not invited to any training the company has for its full-time employees. Training that would help me understand the structure of the company or how the company works or what some of the key strategies are. Some companies do these even just once a month for new full-time employees so they can really be onboarded and understand like a good 360-degree view of the company. I've never gotten that. So I tend to have to come in and start piecing things together. I often have to do some of my own research on the domain or industry, or sometimes I will ask my manager, hey, what documents or information do you have so I can get up to speed relatively quickly on what this work is around. So I don't really have a style of onboarding. I'm used to it being very seat of pants, where I have to show up and quickly learn as much as I can about the company, the industry, the competitors, our products or services. It's a huge amount of stuff, and they usually don't, as a freelancer, they usually don't even remember that I need time to learn that. So I don't have a style. It's drink from the fire hose, I think. How do you deal with conflicts with stakeholders in short-term freelancing projects? I'm very comfortable with conflicts with stakeholders in short-term freelancing projects, and I think very often my conflicts are representative of conflicts other people have had, but they probably didn't think they could say anything because of ethnicity or culture or personality. So I'm usually pretty comfortable saying like, hey, look, you know, I'm the expert that you brought in, and I see what you're saying here. This and this makes sense, but unfortunately, this. So usually I feel like I'm the expert you brought in, so I'm going to tell you how this is. I usually don't... I pretty much never lie, so that's not my thing. I rarely go with the flow if the flow is ugly. If the flow is cool, I'll go with the flow. But if there's something ugly going on there, I'm likely to bring it up to my manager, to a stakeholder, to whoever I think is the right person to bring it up to, especially if I know it is a short-term project and that I'm unlikely to stay after that. I usually feel a little bit more comfortable telling it like it is because that work is going to end now or then or whatever. I don't really have the personality where it's like, oh, I really can't tell these people what a dumpster fire this is because I hope they like me and want to keep me. Usually I want to prove that I brought something to this company or project that they don't already have because other people, either there aren't other people on the UX team or those people are too afraid to speak up. And oh, looks like more anonymous questions are coming in. Let me grab those and put them on the bottom of the list. Sorry you'll have to wait a while since we do have a bunch of questions. Okay, that's the same question again. And that's a different question. Okay, so I am getting your questions. They are going on the list, but now our list got long really fast, and I will get to your question when I can. They all come in the order in which they come. So, Shri, is that helping you at all? Am I in the right ballpark here for the answer? I don't create conflicts with stakeholders, but I don't shy away from them. I'm not afraid to say, hey, you know, I usually won't throw around words like I'm the expert, but, you know, usually I'll say like, hey, you brought me in on this project because of my experience with Boop Bop Beep, and I need to tell you that the best way to go about this is this. If we do it this way, you know, sure, we might think we're faster, but these are the risks we face. And if you're comfortable with those risks, then great, let's document that. Let's document that we had this conversation and I warned you about these risks and you were okay with them. And that way, if anything happens later, I'm not going to get blamed for it because I hope they'll hire me again next time they need a freelancer. And then usually that person stops for a moment. And they're thinking like, oh, I'm not going to be able to blame her later. She's going to document this. But sometimes they go ahead with it anyway, and sometimes they don't. So there you go. All right. Happy that that helped. Let's take a look at the next question, which was Amir over on LinkedIn. And let's put that up on the screen. And it says, I want to try learning product management or CX. What's the difference between CX and product management? So I would probably say that's Googleable. So I don't know what you've learned so far, but product management is typically a strategic look at the product based on supposedly combining the business goals with a customer's or user's goals. The business goals will come from people in the business who tell you, the product manager, what they need or what they're shooting for, and the customer or user goals will typically come from your partners in UX, especially UX research, who will let you know what's going on with customers. So a product manager job, and I'm not an expert in product management, but that job tends to be in that kind of strategic area, though I do see that that job has been evolving and I'm a little worried it's going to make itself extinct. CX is a little bit is also a little bit strange to describe because there are three definitions of CX that I've seen, and I'll tell you what they are. The first one is that the customer experience, CX, is owned by marketing. And so marketing people do CX, and they mostly check for if customers are happy or not through surveys. This is a definition I don't agree with. The second definition I've heard is that CX is your call center and your customer support team, and that CX professionals are usually in the call center part of the organization or somehow adjacent to it, and that since that is a real, phone to phone or email to email or face to face moment with the customer, that's CX, and that's where you need to focus. That's a definition I disagree with. For me, I see CX as a much larger look at the full customer experience, which means sure, marketing's part of that, and sure, customer support might be part of that, but really a lot of that experience is made or broken inside of your products and services. What are we selling to these people? Whatever we're selling to these people has so many points where this relationship can go right or wrong, where they are salespeople, our pricing, the product itself, the support. So to me, somebody who's doing a really good job with CX is going to be taking a look at the real full arc. We've got a little graphic here that I sometimes put up, the real full arc of the customer journey or customer experience. And it doesn't start with just when they're on our website, which I like to call in our ecosystem. It starts with the trigger. Why did they even need to do something related to our company today? Or maybe they're considering multiple competitors and we're just one of them. Now they're in orbit. Now they're checking out different companies. They're circling us. They're circling other people. Will they even pick us? Do we fit their needs? Do we have good pricing? Do we have a free trial? Whatever it might be. Then maybe let's imagine they go with us. Now they're in our ecosystem, they're using our system or staying at our hotel or whatever it is. And then after all that's done, and again, there are multiple tasks, of course, in a customer's journey. It's not one task, which is often one of the mistakes of a customer journey map. But at the end, there's usually some action that they take, or many actions. So I think that when you're good with CX, you are really strategic. Many people working in some CX jobs, they could be designers, but many are researchers who are trying to really understand users from a lot of different angles so that we can make sure we're really understanding that true journey and all of the tasks and subtasks and making what's right for people. So they're totally different jobs. PM and CX or UX, totally different jobs. And Manuel will add your question to the bottom. Keep it coming. It looks like it's going to be a multi-parter because of the limits of YouTube comments. So send it over. All right, let's take a look at the next question that we got. This one came in anonymously, and we'll put that up. Hi. All right, let me just check if I've missed any other questions. Let's see. I think I got them all. Let me just refresh again in anonymous question land and see if I missed anything. Okay, I'm caught up, but everybody's on the list. All right. Let's go back to the next question. Oop, I've got all my windows messed up. And here we go. All right. Let's put this up and then make the font a little bit smaller so we can read it. Hi. I feel like one of the reasons I'm struggling to get my first job is because I've done internships and volunteering that lack UX maturity. It's mostly UI design without any user research and process, so I have to self-learn a lot. Any other advice? Should I add research methods and UX artifacts just to better the storytelling and the quality of the work? Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, it sounds like you've been lucky enough to have some internships. Congratulations. And you did some volunteering, but ultimately you found that these weren't really UX. And that is unfortunately quite common and something I warn people about a lot. I warn people about this a lot, and people are like, what are you talking about? This is what I'm talking about, that you end up with an internship or you do some free work for anybody and it turns out it's not UX work at all. And now what's in your portfolio? Now you've probably wasted your time and now it's not going to be any easier to get your first job. A great UX internship should be the stepping stone to that first UX job. If your UX internship isn't really a UX job or doesn't have UX work, it's going to be harder to get that first UX job because your portfolio might not show UX work, might not show strong UX work. Let's copy and paste the rest of Manuel's question just so I don't miss it. Okay. So, yeah, and Paul says, very, very common. I haven't been able to get a real internship, but UI's wasted time. Right. Okay, so now let's look at the rest of the question now that we've reminded everybody of this warning. Any advice? You know, I have to self-learn a lot. Yeah, unfortunately, that is the problem. You know, we're doing everything we can with our Slack and Discord channels to support people. So head on over and join at least one of those at deltacx.com/links. Of course, please subscribe here so that I can be helping you live where possible. But I wouldn't necessarily add things just to make the storytelling or quality better because now you're telling a story of work that didn't happen. It sounds like you're asking me, should I take the UI job that I did and go do my own UX stuff and add it to that to try to make the story look better? I think that I would just either leave it in my portfolio as UI design if you'd like to show off some of your UI design, and I would be working on having higher standards for the free or paid or internship work that you take. You will want to ask some more questions during the interview to make sure that it's really UX work. We've got episode 129 on the YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and write Delta CX 129. That one was about questions you can ask during an interview to make sure you're going into the right environment for you. Manuel says, same here with my first job. It's loads of UI and lots of guesses. Exactly. And these things are not helping you learn, not helping you level up, and will look good to your next UI job, but not necessarily to a UX job. So I think the key is for everybody to be more picky and have standards, because I know a lot of people think I've just got to get that first internship and then I'll go from there. But now we're seeing that even people who were lucky enough to get that first internship can't go to the next step because of what happened in the internship. And I think it means we're going to have to raise our standards and possibly say no to an internship or to a free unpaid job if it's not going to either give us really great mentoring and coaching because there's an expert UX person who's really going to help us out there and you know, level us up, or it's real UX work that's going to look good on the portfolio. Even if it weren't the best UX work and it were a little more UI, but you had a great lead there who you could really start working from, who's going to show you real UX stuff and maybe let you help out a bit or shadow, that could still be worth it. But when you're kind of getting none of these, I feel like a lot of these aren't worth it and may even be a little bit predatory in that they're hoping to just find, you know, low paid people that they can make do this work. So yeah, look out for that. Ask more questions, etc. I see we have a new anonymous question. This question is almost identical to the one I just answered. So I'm going to throw it in right now, even though that's out of order, because it's a really similar question. So let's put it up and we'll kind of treat it as a follow-up question and then we'll move on with the other questions. So here's this one, and it says, Hi, Debbie. I was hired on as an intern at a very early stage startup that doesn't have a research team. I feel like I was thrown into the deep end here. I don't have a mentor. How can I make sure I'm leading the team in the right direction when I myself haven't had any experience in the field yet? I just want to do right by the other interns and myself. Thanks so much. Okay, so it sounds like they hired a group of interns because you're saying the other interns. I don't have a sense if these interns are all in UX or if these are interns in other areas, like you're working with a product management intern or engineering interns. So number one, it's interesting that you are talking about leading the team. So my first question would be, if you're all interns, how are you leading the team? Did the company designate you the team leader? Did all of the interns designate you the team leader? Let's make sure that you should be the team leader, because I think it could get uncomfortable if you declare yourself the team leader and this hasn't really been either agreed on among the interns or you designated by the startup themselves. Second, a very early stage startup unfortunately rarely wants real UX work. If you've got it, that would be great, but especially with no research, if you are doing design, you are just guessing, and unfortunately it's probably going to be a mostly UI job. That's just my guess from what you've said. I could be wrong. So, thing one, be careful, because you could spend a lot of time and energy and mental health on something that isn't worth it. Number two, when you might just have to find a mentor or coach. You might have to find somebody out there who is willing to look at your work and give you some feedback on it. Now, we're starting something in our Slack and Discord communities where we're going to be looking at people's work and giving them feedback on it, but not if it's for a real job, because we don't want that responsibility to be giving you feedback on real work. It might be breaching confidentiality for you to show us that work. So the new Slack and Discord channels for this, which we're calling Mentorship Village, are really just for people doing fake or passion projects where they're just trying to learn and there's no client or no real work here. So so you wouldn't qualify for Mentorship Village. But I would say, see if you can find that outside mentor or outside coach, somebody who can look at your work and advise you on how to deal with this strategically, because now you have no one to even plan your project. They're going to tell you, yeah, get us some screens. Here's what we're building. That's usually what happens at a very early stage startup. Someone has an idea. You have to make the screens that match that idea. Is it UX? You know, it's not UX without UX research. It's not UX without the letter U being for users. Will you get to usability test a prototype with them? Will it be a realistic prototype like in Axure or a not realistic prototype like in Figma? So there's so many questions I have here. You might want to just find me in Slack or Discord and send me some private messages, see if I can help a little bit more personally. But I think we've got a theme today with people trying to get these early freelance or volunteer or intern jobs, and they're not UX jobs, and they thought they were going into an environment where they were going to get support, and they didn't. You know, an internship is all about going into a business or company or team and learning from others. If the company is not giving you somebody to learn from, it's not an internship. It's just not. It's them trying to get people for free or cheap. So again, I want to tell people it's okay to raise your standards. It's okay to say, I want to go into a company that has at least one senior UX designer who has done UX work at least 4 or 5 years, and that I want to know that that person is allowed for at least a few hours a week to work with me. Other than that, why go into these internships or whatever they're calling them? Because so many of you end up so disappointed. So I think it's okay to have standards. But you know, feel free to disagree. Feel free to ask me a follow-up question. Are there more anonymous things coming in? Let me just check before I move to the next question, because the anonymous system is slow. Okay, so it looks like I'm caught up there. Now let's go to Paul says, can you give a quick off the top tools for research? I can, but I'm going to move you to the bottom of the questions list so we can get to other people who asked first. Alrighty. The next question that came in also came in anonymously, and it says, how can a UX designer move into VR, virtual reality? How is the industry taking this technology? Neat question, but it's something that I know nothing about. Now, we do have a few videos on the channel about VR and AR. You can find them in the playlist called Concentric Conference Sessions or something like that. You can also just search YouTube Delta CX VR or Delta CX AR. There should be 2, 3, 4 videos from the conference we did last year for that. But I am not an expert in this, so I am not going to be able to give you good advice. I think a good person to track down and talk to is a former friend of the show, since we haven't seen him in a while, but we still love him, Elijah Claude, ElijahClaude. You'll find him on LinkedIn, and he's the expert to me, so hopefully he might have some advice on how you can break into that. All right, next question. And I've got about 20 minutes left because I have to leave early today. So let's see how many questions I have. I have this one, and then I have 2 more. So I have room for a little bit more. Okay. This one says, hello, Debbie. I'm working with a company, and we've built a product already with minimal research. Now my co-founder is lecturing me about how we need to do research for the app to understand how people are using it and what people are the audience and why they need it. What advice would you give me on this? Okay, so the first piece of advice would be, this is a great learning moment. So this is where a company has really done things out of order. So instead of starting with research and saying, who should we build something for? And what are they doing now? And what are their pain points? What are some opportunities to meet or exceed their unmet needs in ways that our competitors aren't covering? Instead of starting with research, they're starting with, somewhere over here, design. We built a thing. Maybe it had no design. Maybe it just went straight, some idea just went straight to engineering. Who knows? So first of all, notice how that can really mess up the process. That building before we learn leads us to mistakes, to risk, to waste. And if you notice the questions this person is asking on behalf of their the person lecturing them, which is funny. Now my co-founder. Are you the co-founder? Are you the other co-founder? When you say I'm working with a company, but my co-founder, are you a co-founder here? Sounds like you don't have a lot of power here if you're being lectured. But someone's lecturing you about doing research for the app to understand how people are using it and what the audience is for the product and why they need it. Okay, so again, this is cart before horse. You know, this is, look, we built these giant 1-liter cups. Now go find the people who want 1-liter cups. This is typically a marketing approach to thinking. Look, we made a thing. Go find the people who want this and figure out why they need it so we can figure out how to advertise it to them. That would be market research and a marketing approach. If you want to do some UX research around this, you can still show this product to current users if you have any of them. You could show it to potential users, people who match your target audience but don't know about this thing and haven't used it, and you can do that. Typically, the way that we do this type of usability or evaluative test is to give people a typical task that they might have in this app or system or whatever it is. I don't think you said what it was, and that's fine. You give people a typical task. So you might say, you're looking to learn more about your carbon emissions. You're looking to organize your information around your mortgage application. You're looking to, like, you give people a task. Trying to think of some of the ones that we did in usability tests. You're looking to shop for 125 logo water bottles and you have $1,000 to spend. Go. And you, if you're live there with the person, you video record these. Otherwise, if you're using something like UX Tweak, not sponsored, I pay them, they don't pay me. If you're using something like UX Tweak, then you can have people do it themselves and then you get the video of it and hopefully they've spoken out loud and you see what's going on. And ultimately, the first thing that you'll see is whether or not the product works for the people you believe are the target audience. Now, if they're actually saying, we have no idea who needs this and we have no idea who's going to use it and go find the people who might want this, that's kind of an impossible task. You know, you would have to ask, well, who did we have in mind when we built this? Who did we think we were solving a problem for? It's got to be somebody. It can't be, and sometimes the answer is me. I thought this was a problem, so I made a thing, and I hope other people like it too. Okay, well, if I'm going to find other people like you, what are the qualities in you that made you need this that I should look for in other people? But remember that is still a bit of a cherry-picked group. You know, okay, you found 10 people who like to plan travel while hanging upside down in a swimming pool. You know, congratulations, you have 10 people you might sell this to. So ultimately, this is not the correct research to do. Typically, research like this, if not planned extremely correctly, ends up just validating the idea. Hey, we found 10 people like you, and yeah, like you, they liked it. Great, 10 people. Now what? Where's the business model? What's the plan? What are you doing? What are you making and for whom? If you've never written a business plan in your life, I would say now is the time to press pause and write that business plan. And by the way, you're welcome to show this video to your co-founder. I don't think I've said anything insulting them other than it sounds like they shouldn't be lecturing you. But you're welcome to share this with them. I would rather they be informed and get a little tough love because this is not the right way to do it. You have to, we talk all the time, especially for startups, about product market fit. We are going to build a product that is an amazing fit for the target market. If we have a product idea and we have no idea who the target market is for, this is already not a fit. You can't put a piece we have together with an unknown, non-existent piece. So this doesn't seem to follow like any of the ways that we should be doing any sort of startup stuff. Now, I don't like the lean startup, so I'm not suggesting that, but this is all very backwards, and I'm worried that whatever research gets done next is going to be self-validating, as many startups do. Hey, I ran a survey, and yeah, 78% of people said they have the same problem too, and they'd really love something that fixes this. I've heard it all. I've been to enough startup events to have heard, oh yeah, surfers really have problems coordinating surfing and they're going to need our special app to help surfers coordinate surfing. Fast forward X months later, startup doesn't exist. So I know this was a bit of a circuitous answer, but you asked what advice I would give you, and the advice is that this was done all wrong. It doesn't make sense to say, I have an idea that I want to build. Who's it for? Go find out who this is for. That's kind of a reverse engineering marketing thing. You should not be building anything if you don't understand who it's for and what problem you're solving for them, and making sure that that problem is not already well solved by one or more competitors in the space. That would be my suggestion. All right, next question, and then we'll do polls, and then we're going to have to wrap up for today since I do have a phone call at 1/2 the hour if you're on Italy time. And okay, we'll add Manuel's question to Paul's question. Okay. Hey, Debbie, working on a freelance project and got the owner to start with research before design or dev. Cool. but faced an issue. Finding participants is hard even after incentives. Now he's suggesting we'll talk to any target users we meet. He will talk to any target users he meets and send me the data from his conversations with them. I don't feel real good about this, but I can do little since there's no budget for tools to recruit. Okay, so I have a lot of questions here, and I know you're not with me to answer them. You can always contact me privately and see if I can help a little bit. Also a reminder, I am going to be away starting on Friday for 10 days. If you ask me a question in Slack or Discord, I might be slow to get back to you. I'm going mostly off the grid for about 10 days to try to finish my book. So, back to this. I think we're missing the information on why finding participants is hard, and we're also missing the information on how much your incentives were. Sometimes it's hard to find participants because you're looking for surgeons and you want to give them $20 to give you a half hour. Sometimes the incentives are too low. Sometimes finding participants is hard because you've gone too wacky with the demographics or with the parameters. We need male surgeons who are over 6 feet tall who work east of the Mississippi River. Yes, that'll be hard. So it's hard for me to know why this was hard. Because sometimes finding people is super easy, barely an inconvenience, as one of my favorite YouTubers says. And sometimes it's disastrous and just takes months or it's a mess. But magically, the owner is able to find target people. So there's a disconnection here. How is it that you're not able to recruit, but the owner can find target users? I'm sensing a little bit of a manipulation here, potentially, that maybe the owner really just wants to talk to them and control that conversation and ask the wrong things the wrong way as they do. So, and if the owner finds target people, why aren't they sending them to you? So this may be a freelance project that you might want to wrap up and walk away from, because the owner doing the research is probably not something you want to continue getting involved with. Manuel says the incentive is kind of low. So that could certainly be it. Sometimes you're looking for professionals or tech workers or medical professionals, and you want to give them, the people say, but I'll buy them a coffee. And I go, someone who makes that money can buy their own coffee. You have to pay them serious money for their time. So I would be suspicious that this person is keeping these people from you or blocking you from finding them because they really want to do the interviews, because otherwise, if they are able to find target users, why aren't they giving them to you? So I have a suspicion about that one. That was not anonymous. That was Manuel. So thank you for that. And for what might be our last question today, let's combine Manuel's question with Paul's question. And let's just add these together. Here we go. So could you give a quick off-the-top tools for UX research? Quick list I can write down and research it better later. And Manuel says, follow up. Are there any free or cheap tools? I find it hard finding a tool that won't break the bank, especially recruiting tools. Okay. Yeah, I know. I've been planning to build my own recruiting tool for years now, and I just keep not having the time or money to see it through, but someday I will, and it will be affordable. So in general, the tools that I use for research are, so I use a survey tool. And again, you can use whatever survey tool you like. I think I'm using one of the most expensive ones. So that's not going to be a good recommendation for free or cheap. Sometimes people are using free or cheap stuff along the lines of Google Forms or SurveyMonkey or something like that. I am using Alchemer, Alchemer. It's really expensive. I'm not happy with what I pay for it, but I haven't found a better system or a system I like more. So that is, if you can find a survey tool you like better, please use it. or one that fits your budget, please use it. But you do want to find something that has good skip logic so that you can not make people see questions that don't relate to them. So skip logic is important, sometimes both at the page and the question level. So you need a survey tool. You will need some sort of easy online calendar so people can book time with you. A lot of people use Calendly. I actually strongly dislike Calendly, but again, if it works for you, you're welcome to use it. The one time I used it for a study, I had more no-shows than I'd ever seen before, and it looked like a lot of the emails were going out with the wrong time zone, and when I tried to write to Calendly, they didn't seem to notice what I was talking about, so that was bad. So you'll need some sort of calendar booking thing to make it easier for you to say to someone, here's my calendar and here's our open slots for sessions or interviews or whatever. Pick your time. I am using You Can Book Me. I think it's youcanbook.me. Again, not sponsored. I think it costs 10 American dollars a month. And it synchronizes with your Google Calendar and other stuff. I do like it. It's not perfect. I wish it had a couple of more features, but there are some nice things that it does that make my life better. If you've ever scheduled a call with me in the last year, I think I switched back to You Can Book Me from, I used to use Acuity, but they got bought by Squarespace and then went downhill. So yeah, if you've booked with me, you used You Can Book Me, and so you saw the other side of that. You'll need to run your sessions, and you'll want to do it in something that you can record and maybe have people share a screen. So that's going to be a Google Meet or a Zoom. Zoom's free plan stops your call at 40 minutes. That might not be enough for some people. Zoom is not wildly expensive, but obviously, you know, based on where you're based, it could be very expensive. I saw a cheaper one that looked interesting. It was called Whereby. Whereby. I think they were Scandinavian. That might be something worth looking at. But I am using Zoom, and that is certainly not sponsored. When it comes to analyzing research, our two key tools over at Delta CX, still not sponsored, are Miro. I pay them. I use Miro over Mural, though really neither of them is accessible, and they're certainly both imperfect, but I'm preferring Miro right now. And we are also using Dovetail for some analysis. For some of our evaluative stuff, we were using UX Tweak, and it was simple. It wasn't the prettiest thing I'd ever seen, and that's fine. I'm function over form. I liked UX Tweak. I thought it was a lot less expensive than its competitors, and it was good. For some stuff, I was using Optimal Workshop. I think UX Tweak can do some of the same things, but I didn't try UX Tweak for the card sorting and tree testing yet. Hard time finding UX tool that won't break the bank. Super true. You know, for a lot of recruiting, we do it in our survey tool, and then we dump the survey tool into like a Google Sheet. Google Sheets should be free if you have a Gmail account. So remember, use your free tools, especially from Google Suite. You know, you've got your Google Forms, which will dump into a Google Sheet. You've got Google Sheets. You might be able to use Google Calendar to schedule time with people. So I would say look at you probably can't use Google Meet because you can't record with it unless you have like a paid level like we have at Delta CX. But you could certainly, you know, use the Google Suite as much as you can. Google even has like a fake Miro out there. I think it's called Jamboard. I never really looked at it since I had Miro, but maybe Jamboard is like a free Miro. I don't even know. You know, go dig into the Google tools and see what you can find there. Solomon says Maze is now $900 a year. Yeah, it's and Maze doesn't work with Axure Pro. Well, when I looked at Maze a year or so ago, they didn't work with Axure prototypes. I don't know if they do now, but for me, that's a deal breaker. I've got to have a system that works with Axure prototypes. UX Tweak did, and in fact, that's how I found them. I was Googling like what system works best with Axure prototypes, and people were recommending them, and I had a good experience. So there you go. So I'm going to wrap up for today. Thanks, Solomon, for joining in. I'm going to wrap up for today a little bit early because I do have a call in about 10 minutes and I want a little time to get ready for it. But I will be back tomorrow, Wednesday, August 3rd, reading one of my new articles about should product managers do UX research or design. It is a long article and I think it's going to be something that a lot of you will want to get involved in discussing. So I hope you'll come by. Thursday, of course, is our live video call networking, which is for anybody who's in our Slack or Discord. Again, as always, please do subscribe and spread the word about the channel because I think I'm still shadow banned on YouTube. So I really need the help of the word of mouth, telling people about the channel. Thank you, Shri. And so I'll see you tomorrow on the show, Thursday if you're part of our Slack or Discord community, and then Friday I'm going off the grid. So everybody have a super week, and I hope to catch you tomorrow. Thanks. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are